Hello all students, how are you? As we finished chapter 1, we start now chapter 2 and we talk about computer components. We start with computer hardware. As we mentioned before, computer system consists of two parts. The first part is called computer hardware. Second part is computer software. In this chapter, chapter 2, we will talk about computer hardware. And as computer hardware consists of number of all units needed to operate the computer, and this computer hardware's electronic mechanical components that contain input devices, output devices, central processing unit, primary storage unit, secondary storage devices, communication devices. And if we go for the figure in page 61 and also in this figure in front of you, we have the component of computer hardware. We start with the input where all data and instructions needed to perform the computer are input through input units. And this input will go to primary storage. And then if you need to save this data, we can go to secondary storage, or if we need to process, we go to central processing unit. So one more time, we start by input unit where all data are input to computer, and then we have two units, central processing unit and storage unit. And also we have output unit where all information after processing data, we produce information. The output of our processing are information. So information is the output from the computer. So we feed computer with data, we get the result which is called information out of computer. And also we have arrows, as you see in the figure. If you have the linked data or the black ink data, it's a data flow, and the dot one is control flow. The control flow which controls all items, all the operations of the computer. Control actually controls the input units, output units, and also control the storage, either primary storage or secondary storage, and also control unit controls the arithmetic logic unit. Now we go for the, it's just comic كده for the computers. The hardware input devices, any peripheral equipment provide data and control signals to any information processing system such as computer. Input devices translate data from form that humans understand. Any form that humans prepare or understand, such as piece of paper, documents, figures, graphs, tables, and so on, which humans understand, to one that computer can work with. Most common devices are keyboard and mouse. Most common devices, most common known devices used in our life, such as keyboard and device. An example of input devices, keyboard as shown in the figure, keyboard, el pointing device, remote control, el joystick, a touch screen, scanners, graphics tablet, el microphone, digital camera, el webcams, or light pens. And we talk about some of these later on. The screen, the figure now in front of you is a figure that all components of computer hardware The input devices, such as shown by the red arrows, are the video camera on the top of the screen, video camera, and the keyboard, and the mouse, الميكروفون, والdigital scanners, وديجيتال كاميرا, والscanners as well. So if you want to talk about each one of these in brief, before we talk about the details of these peripherals, we have also what is called power supply. Any computer system should have a power supply, because we use computers with power supply, electronic circuits, and current supply as well. So we have the power supply is device that convert all digits and all keyboard digits and so on into the machine language, or not into the machine language, it's into the power signals needed by the computer, not the machine language, I'm sorry. I believe the power supply is the digits or whatever needed to perform the machine itself. Also, we have what is called the motherboard. Sometimes it is called the system board. Motherboard is the main circuit board in the computer. This is the big green circuit board to which everything else, such as the keyboard, mouse, printer, attached through the connections called ports in the back of the computer. So everyone, if you open the computer, you find this green flat كده piece. It is called the motherboard. Very important part of the computer hardware actually. Also, we go next slide. We talk about the hardware, computer hardware, output devices. Any piece of computer hardware equipment used to communicate the results of data processing carried out by an information processing system. Convert the electronically generated information into human readable form. So we have, as we have input units, we have very famous input units such as keyboard, and as we mentioned before, keyboard has all alphabetic characters and numbers and special characters are represented in the keyboard. The keyboard, the most famous input unit, all alphabetic characters from A to Z, all numeric characters from 0 to 9, all special characters such as addition sign, minus sign, open bracket, close bracket, column, semicolon, dot, star, dollar sign, and so on. All these items are actually are represented in the keyboard, where we can use the keyboard in any part. And also the keyboard, we have Arabic and letters, and we have English letters. You can write either in Arabic or in English, from right to left or from left to right. And we have also control and shift and space and so on, arrows up and down, right and left. All these actually special characters are represented in the keyboard. The most famous output device are screen, a monitor. We have different kinds of monitors, and we have different kinds of printers as well. The most famous one are printers, and we have different kinds of printers, starting from laser printers, inkjet printers, dot matrix printers, and so on. Also, we have speakers, microphones. So as we have a microphone as an input, we have speakers as an output. So each one of this give us a way. We have different kinds of speakers actually. We have high quality speakers, and we have the normal speakers. Actually, most developers are changing the normal speakers into high quality speakers to give us more sound filters and so on, so it can be a very high quality speakers. We have plotters used by the engineers to draw the graphics, to draw the buildings, for example, or needed for architecture, either interior architecture or exterior architecture are used, and they use graph plotters. Also, we have a multimedia projectors which present so many actually figures and so on used by the output units. And as it's shown in this figure, the red arrows, you see the top one, the monitor, different kinds of monitors. We have this kind of monitor, or we have a flat screen, or we have a smart screens as well. Different kinds of screens are available now in the market as an output, represent output. We have also pointers in the screens, and we have so many things when you work with it. We have speakers, different kinds of speakers actually, on the right and left of the figure shown. You have this kind of speaker as an output. At the bottom of the page, you find this printers. The red arrow has a printer actually. It is shown as this kind of printers as well. And we have different kinds of printers, as we mentioned. We have printers that print, for example, 80 characters per line. And we have printers print maybe 132 characters per line. And we have printers, which is a rare one, it's a very expensive one, which can print 160 characters per line. It's a very expensive one, needed for example, when you print the budget or whatever, accountants and so on, they need this kind of large printers which can print, or engineers as well. Sometimes they need this kind of printers, which are very, very large one, can print a very large piece of paper or papers. Yeah. Now we go back to the figure. We describe the input unit in brief. We describe the output unit also in brief. Actually, the mouse, we can use mouse to as an input to move the pointers on the screen if we need to adjust or amend or correct. If we have an error or whatever, we may use the mouse. Actually, it is connected to the computer to move the arrows and so on, or the pointers for the characters needed to be changed or whatever. So we have to change or to delete or to amend whatever using the mouse. Very famous input unit as well. So we go for continue hardware. Now we talk about central processing unit, known as processor. By processor, it's a kesa. We call it sometimes in Arabic kesa, which are putting, which you used to see while you are working under your desk. It is called the kesa. Carries out instructions that tell computer what to do. All instructions needed to tell computer what to do, how to perform the instructions, how to perform programs, and so on. All these items or all these operations are done in the processor or in the central processing unit. The central processing unit, the abbreviation is CPU, abbreviation for central processing unit. is compressed or component of two main parts. ALU, it's an abbreviation of arithmetic logic unit. Control unit, abbreviation of which is CU. So we have in the central processing unit two parts, arithmetic logic unit, where all operations or arithmetic operations and logical operations are done in this part, and control unit, CU, which controls all devices and all items and all operations inside the computer, controls input units, control data to be input into computers, also controls output unit, control information needed to be output from computers, also controls the arithmetic logic unit, controls the arithmetic logic unit where all operations are done. The control unit is considered as the human brain of the person, or electronic the electronic brain of, it's considered as a brain, as if it's a brain of the person, يعني, who can think and control everything. So part is like this. Arithmetic logic unit, ALU, executes all arithmetic and logical operations. Arithmetic calculations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and so on. Logical operation like compare numbers, compare letters, special characters, and so on. For example, if you say if A is greater than B, it's a logical operation. If we need to, for example, to sort or to letters from A to B and C and D and so on, from A to Z, it's a logical operation, and so on. But if you add numbers, if you have an invoice, for example, you have a number, you buy, for example, 5 items, the price of which for each item is 10 pounds. So computer will multiply 5 times 10. This is called arithmetic calculation. So we have a different kinds of things, arithmetic operations, and also we have logical operations. All these arithmetic and logical operations are done in the arithmetic logic. Now we go to control unit. Control unit controls and coordinates computer components. Computer components, which is input devices, output devices, storage, main storage, secondary storage, arithmetic logic unit, controls input data, controls output information, controls everything, actually. Controls all activities done in computer hardware. This is the function of control unit. Read the code for the next instruction to be executed. We write programs in code. So the control unit will read the code, the instruction, and then will transform this instruction into machine readable form, which we'll see later on, the machine language or the binary system. Read whatever data the instruction requires from the memory. We'll take all items from the memory. For example, if it is an addition or subtraction, or if it is a logical operations, store data, save data, whatever. So the control unit will read whatever data the instruction requires from the memory, provide the necessary data to the arithmetic logic unit or registers, provide the necessary data, will transform the arithmetic data to arithmetic logic unit. From copy from the memory, from data in the memory, will go to arithmetic logic unit to be performed. Also, if the instructions requires an arithmetic logic unit or specialized hardware to be complete, instruct the hardware to perform the requested operations. So the computer, after finishing the operations in the arithmetic logic unit, will take the copy of this result and go back to put it in the memory. Actually, when you do this kind of operations in the arithmetic logic unit, we have the result. For example, we multiply 5 times 10, the result of which will be 50. This 50 will go back to the memory before go to output unit. So the control unit actually controls all items and all functions needed to be done and to be performed. Now we go back to the main computer units. As we see, we talked about input units, output units, and central processing unit, control unit, arithmetic logic unit. We go back to primary storage devices such as memory. The memory, a place that temporarily holds data and instruction. Temporarily, as we say, it's a temporary storage area. Memory has two types: random access memory, which is RAM, and read-only memory, which is ROM. And we say RAM, random access memory, responsible for storing data on a temporary basis so that it can be promptly accessed by the processor when needed. It is a volatile memory, يعني متطايرة in nature, which means that data will be erased when electricity is turned off. If you turn off your computer, all data and instructions located or stored in the memory will be deleted. So if you need to keep this data, we have what is called save. So we will save this data in a secondary storage media such as disk or flash memory or CD or whatever. But the main memory of the computer, it is called a volatile in nature, which means that data will be erased when electricity is turned off. RAM is considered random access because you can access any memory cell directly if you know the row and column that instructions or instructed at that cell. As we mentioned before, computer memory consists of cells, number of cells. Each cell has an address. It is called an address of the cell. Sometimes we call it عنوان, the address. تمام? So computer memory, you may consider computer memory as a hotel. You have rooms in the hotel, and each room has a number. So you have room number. So the computer memory, the cells in the computer memory, each cell has a number, has an address. We call it address. So we have addresses. Computer memory consists of cells. Each cell has an address, has a number or address. Okay? So central processing unit, as we mentioned before, we have the control unit. We talked about control unit, arithmetic logic unit, and also you have a figure in page 67, machine cycle. In page 67, you find step 1. You fetch instructions from memory, as shown in page 67. You fetch, you have a main memory, and then you fetch the instruction from memory, goes to control unit. Second step, decode instruction into commands. We decode instruction into command. يبقى first step, we fetch instruction from memory, and we take this instruction into control unit. Inside the control unit will decode instruction into commands. And then step 3, execute commands in arithmetic logic unit. We execute the commands in arithmetic logic unit. For example, we add, we subtract, we divide, we compare, whatever is done in arithmetic logic unit. And step 4 is store results in memory. We go back to memory and put the result in the memory. So the main memory, we have instructions stored in the main memory. And these instructions tell computer what to do. So how computer will perform these instructions? By step 1, 2, 3, 4 as shown in figure 2.5 in page 67. Step 1, you fit instructions from memory. We take these instructions into control unit. Inside the control unit will decode instructions into commands. After decoding the instruction into commands, these commands will be executed in the arithmetic logic unit. The result of the execution of these commands, such as the result of addition or subtraction or multiplication or whatever arithmetic operations we need, the result of which will go back to memory to be stored in the memory. So page 67 show this function. Also in page 68 we have the CPU structure. We have the CPU arithmetic logic unit, which is called sometimes registers, and we have also control unit. We have main memory, RAM and ROM as well, and also we have controls, and we have a disk devices, control units and so on, which if we need to save the data permanently, we go to we call it secondary memory or whatever. Now we have what is called ROM, read-only memory, is a permanent form of storage, non-volatile. The data, if we store data in ROM, if you turn your computer off, this will not be deleted. Data in ROM is permanently written, as it is not erased when you power off your computer. Contains the programming needed to start a PC, which is essential for boot up. Sometimes we call it the operating system. The operating system actually is located inside your ROM. The most famous operating system needed to perform our computers, or we used in our university or whatever, in Faculty of Commerce, is the Windows. Windows is one of the most famous software needed to operate your computer. ROM devices do not allow data stored on them to be modified. For example, we cannot modify the operating system. We cannot go for any instruction of operating system or Windows or whatever to modify this instruction. This is not possible in the ROM. So we actually talked about computer components, hardware components. So we stopped this lecture at this part, and next lecture we start with the comparison of ROM and RAM, and actually you may find this table as well. You need to read this part of comparison and so on. So we talk, next lecture we start by comparing RAM and ROM. Thank you very much. Thank you.